Well, with me now is my colleague Sami Zeidan, who was the last Al Jazeera English correspondent to report from inside Syria just a few months ago. What did it look like?
Well, I think there are a few things that really catch your eye when you go into Syria now, one being the obvious one, the destruction, the scale of the destruction, walking in parts of cities and places which used to be built up and as you can see from the pictures in the video all behind you, just look really horrible right now. There's also, it's quite shocking when you see a sea of internally displaced people that are beginning to settle down into either tents, and they're the lucky ones because you've got people who show up all the time from areas which are caught up in fighting, looking for somewhere safer to go, and they haven't even got more than a piece of plastic over their head to tie between two trees as they seek shelter for themselves and their families. But there's also a sense of the lack of security everywhere, not only in places which are under assault by regime airplanes, but even in places which are quote-unquote relatively safe. You have people who are afraid to cross a road. I mean, we drove, for example, in one journey for only 20 minutes. It must have gone through about 10 checkpoints by 10 different groups. There's a great feeling of insecurity everywhere in the country you go, almost.
And how were people that you met reflecting upon the direction of the revolution?
It was interesting to talk to people and see that mood change. You know, from the early days, a strong sense of disgust at the abuses which the regime was committing, a sense of hope. It was the beginning of the Arab Spring. And I think a lot of people felt that, well, if they can do this in Tunisia and Egypt and other places, we can do it too. And then to see that sort of mood change towards a despair, a lack of trust anymore in the international community, a sense of abandonment, a feeling that outside world powers are simply playing a bigger power struggle and they are small pawns. And that, of course, not everybody in Syria is against the regime. It does have its support, but I would say a lot of the people, particularly those who are fleeing from the areas where they used to live, have that sense of abandonment, of wishing for something new and for change, but that turning into despair.
Yeah, you talk about this despair, this frustration, this sense of abandonment. How then do people feel that it's going to end?
I think when you talk certainly to some of the groups as well as people there is a fear that we don't want a Dayton for the Levant. As we know, the war in Bosnia ended with a Dayton Accord that was brokered by the United States, by outside powers, but it created, in the opinion of many people who live in Bosnia, a sort of state that is, in effect, a failed state, where all the three communities simply exist strong enough to challenge each other, and you can't get any business done one way or another because everything is politically deadlocked. And I think a lot of people don't want that situation replicated in Syria. They don't want the different communities that have coexisted in the past enter a new political phase where they're simply strong enough to strangle each other politically in the future when they've stopped strangling each other through warfare.
Sami, many thanks.